The fourth episode of Manny, and we have Alex Garcia. Now, Alex is mostly known for running his own e-commerce brand, Modern Skin, and being a CEO of a company that transport hypercars. But Alex, for somebody that hasn't a clue at all who you are, you want to give like a bit of an intro and background as to who Alex Garcia actually is.
Yeah, I don't really like to use the term entrepreneur because I think some of what I do has been done before, and I think really a distinction between being an entrepreneur and being in business is someone that does something really new.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take credit for like crazy innovation or anything like that, but I am in business and I've done my time working both in corporate environments, working kind of hustling for a lot of years as well. But right now I'm a business person. I'm involved in business. You find me online and in places doing that business. So yeah, I'm British. I'm 42, soon to be 43 this year. It's been a long journey and I've done loads of different things, but actually it's only in the last kind of 8 years where things have really kind of took shape, I'd say.
And what actually happened in the last 8 years? What changed to the other years that you had before that?
Yeah, I think just an understanding more about the markets and the businesses that I was involved in. Um, I think really I'm the sum of all of the lessons that I've learned in the past, and
Mhm.
it's really been able to be in the right environment, meet the right people, and just have a set of events fall concurrently that's really benefited. So we can talk about more about my experience or where the business is going because it's not always linear, the path.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. Even like looking in the mirror, it's quite interesting to see how I've ended up here.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to know because I know I'm checking out your social media, and as you know, you're the CEO of a company that transports hypercars, which I think is really, really cool. Like, how did you get into that?
Okay, I better just say I'm not the CEO. I'm not the CEO. My partner's actually the CEO. She's been in shipping for 20 plus years, so she actually is the figurehead behind that business. I'm a co-founder of it, so
Oh,
I work on mainly business development in Europe, and we have someone that helps us out in the US. And yeah, I'm a major shareholder of the business and help run it, but I'm not the CEO. But in short, my partner who's been in logistics for 20 years. She was working in a Swedish shipping company, and she ended up on the board of that company. And they were very diversified. So they were managing military contracts, they were managing some automotive contracts, life sciences, technology, art, anything that was like kind of quite high value or high risk. Now that
yeah,
company took a change in direction a few years ago, and she built up quite a lot of repertoire with the automotive industry. So we had the idea to break off and just specialize in automotive, and that's exactly what we did. And it so happened it was the right move because there's been like a decline in the value of art shipments in over the last few years,
yeah.
and industry has gone a bit up and down, but the automotive has just gone stronger and stronger and stronger. And as we've niched and specialized more in that industry, it was the right move, and yeah, business is good.
Sorry for that mix-up as well, Alex. And have how has that affected you? Kind of niching in on one particular area.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a niche. When you try and please everybody, you kind of please no one at the same time,
Yeah,
and it's quite tempting. We turn down work all the time. I think it's a bit clearer now because we've really made it clear about, what our niche is and put our flag in the ground, so to speak. But before we were turning down quite a lot of work for art, and that is when like revenue wasn't as high as it is now. So it's really tempting to take those sort of jobs. But in the long run, it doesn't benefit anyone because our mind is on the other prize and we're not able to serve the clients quite as well. Now, the good thing about our niche is we serve clients that have fairly deep pockets,
yeah,
and they are in a way a bit more recession proof. Now, as you know, like the economy at the moment is quite unstable. We've not had a very clear direction in the way that, for me, globalization is coming to an end anyway, and that's another topic. But yeah, the economy's been up and down, especially as we're a UK-based business. Like the
Yeah.
British economy is kind of faltering a little bit. So it's been able, having our client base has been able to allow us to kind of be recession proof in a sense. Not that we're in recession, but we could be looking at that. So these are people that will spend regardless, of the economic climate. So it's been very good to be in that niche. We also work with some manufacturers, and they've had heavy investment, they've got healthy revenue. We manage their programs in terms of like their logistics and distribution. So it's quite steady work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you actually like maintain such good relationship with your clients because if it's on and off, you have one here and there, it can be pretty hard. But how do you actually maintain such good relationships?
I think quite simply, just by offering a level of service that is just isn't available to these clients. So we're in a market that's got quite a few, sorry, very few niche players. So in terms of what we do, in terms of serving our clients, we give a service that is just way above and beyond what they can find anywhere else.
Okay, okay. And how would somebody go about, you know, keeping like actually getting such a good offer out there? Like, what does that look like? That makes sense.
If you're talking about generally just in business, I think it takes a while to understand who you are and what you're good at. And I think when you're younger, it's important just as important to recognize what you're not good at as what you are good at. So try different things. Once you realize what you could do and that no one else can do, then put it out there and just push that as hard as you can. But again, it's just an
Mhm.
offer means, lots of different things to lots of different people. For example, I'm quite good at systems and stress testing and making decisions under pressure. That's my offer. If I was to ever do any consulting, I would teach people how to kind of weather the storm and get through periods of uncertainty and things like that. That's just what I'm good at. But other people are better at other things. Find out what you're good at and put it out there.
Obviously, you've been in the space than a lot more people. Younger guys who are in their 20s. How
Yeah.
do you kind of find your area of expertise?
Lots of failure, lots of failure, and this is one thing that I like to look out for when I partner with people or work with people. I've got a team around me at the moment, and they've all had kind of hard times, and they've
Yeah.
pushed through them. And I think when you surround yourself with people who claim to be winners all the time, that is a bit of a red flag. I'm more interested in sitting down with people and going, tell me about the worst times in your life. Tell me about really what was the biggest challenges and how you overcame them. So yeah, you've got to learn through failure, and you've got to try different things and go hard and be fully committed.
Yeah.
There's no point going 50% in. You've got to go 100%. And if you fail, just fail quickly, and then you can move on.
Mm, mm. And you say just kind of like humility, just kind of being humble, not saying I'm the best, I'm always a winner. A lot of time you hear though, you have to have high ego to succeed in business in the financial world. Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Um, I disagree. I think you learn less from winning than you do from failure, and ego will only get you so far. And when you're in, and this is just a metaphor for life. If you're the loudest and the most intelligent person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. Okay, you want to have your ears open, and you want to potentially be the least informed person in the room, because then you're going to grow. So ego will only get you so far. It'll only get you into certain rooms, and then you'll find out very quickly that ego, it isn't really worth anything. It isn't really worth anything. And it's funny because when you're younger, you kind of get so far with ego, and then you get paid for what you can do. But then when you get a bit older, you get paid for kind of like who you are and what you can bring to the table and the value you can add. So it's like, yeah, it becomes less of a thing. So this year, the last few years, I've not really dealt with too many big egos. Everyone, as you get higher up, seems to be more based in reality.
Okay. Okay. And for you, what's the kind of a mindset, not a mindset shift, but a belief that you've held throughout these years that has allowed you to be so successful?
Um, it's a real good question. I think my beliefs shift quite a lot, and I try and be open to learning new things and being taught. So I do have a belief system that I should always be open and like an eternal student. And I think that's really important because the world is changing so quickly. So anything that you learned a few years ago is subject to being changed quite a lot. And especially in the industry that we deal with. So we deal a lot with, dangerous goods, regulation, import, tariffs, things that change very quickly. So you've got to be open to flexibility and change. So if there's one piece of advice I've given myself over the years is just be prepared to pivot and learn and never get too set in your ways, and you'll do okay.
That's really interesting because I was actually at the event in Dublin, and one of the speakers there is Christian Schut, the founder of one of the F1 ticketing softwares, and one phrase that he kept saying was, I'm a full time idiot. I'm a full time idiot. Like I
Mhm.
nothing. I was just kind of being open to learning the whole time. And you're saying there, obviously there's a lot of kind of almost tariff wars happening right now. The economy is changing a lot. How do you constantly kind of adapt to these changes?
Mm. So so I work in business, right? And they're two very different businesses. I have a skincare company. I have other ventures starting to emerge underneath that in a group. And I've got this automotive logistics business. Now, the principles of what are inside those businesses are static. It is, are we profitable? Can we reduce our overheads? Can we not avoid tax? Can we be tax efficient by setting up subsidiaries in other parts of the world? How can we adapt to regulatory change and conflicts? And for example, Donald Trump, he put on massive tariffs for Europe, and the automotive industry was really affected by that. So we had a few rough months, very worried clients, but we managed to find ways around it, and we found solutions that worked for them and added value that way. So again, it's just about flexibility. Now, I do worry about how, because I've got a son as well, and I do worry about like what sort of future is he going to have, what sort of jobs are going to be out there. But if there's one thing I can say is like things will work their way out. There's been worse times in history. We're very privileged in a lot of ways, actually, with the information we've got access to. So you can't get too hung up on things. I've actually forgotten what your original question is. I've forgotten what your original question was there. Sorry.
No, no, you're fine. It was how do you keep adapting to the constant changes?
Yeah, just keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. I'd like to work in cycles of like 5 years, actually. This might be quite interesting to you. So I'm I struggle with being present sometimes because I've got like this future fixation quite a lot. So my head is always like thinking about what moves am I making now that is going to come off in 5 years. So like the company that we have now was like planned 5 years ago, for example, and where we're starting to get with the cosmetics business. This is a result of moves that were made years ago. So I think, try and predict what's going to come, but always know that the decisions you make today probably won't be paid off for maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years. So that's one way to do it. There's a bit of guesswork there.
Yeah, yeah. And you're saying there, like with the cosmetics business that you have, like the plays you're making were kind of predicted or almost chosen about 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Why is it that it's kind of so far away that you kind of had these in mind, but you're only kind of acting on them now?
Yeah, so cosmetics is if you'd like to talk about cosmetics, that's fine. Cosmetics is an industry, especially skincare, that is quite outdated, and the thinking around it and the marketing around it is a bit stuck in the past. Now, what you've got is you've got a lot of small startups, kind of like me, that came out at the same time next to none of them are around anymore, really. They've all gone under. And then you've got these huge incumbents like L'Oreal, these companies like Nivea that are really just behemoths. They just own so much of the market, but they haven't been able to adapt because all their messaging is around aesthetics, vanity, and it just doesn't work that well for a male market. And I think the good thing about being a startup is we can pivot our messaging quite quickly. We can adapt our product, so we can almost see where it's going into a performance space because skincare is moving into performance and it will move into performance. And we can make the changes now to be one of the first in that category, and we will be one of the first in that category. And there's big things coming from modern, so I'm very excited.
Amazing. I think you're 100% right. There is like a massive gap for, especially for males in the skincare market. 'Cause, like, there's always the big brands like Nivea, but for lads, you don't, there's not actually much out there, much that you feel like you could actually trust. And you said there at the start, like there was a lot of kind of startups, skin startups that started with E as well. Why is it that they kind of went under and you stayed afloat?
Yeah, e-commerce is really hard actually, and it's one of the most technical branches of business out there actually, and people don't realize it. We're blessed by a lot of technology and distribution and things like Amazon, Meta ads, but I think people underestimate really how expensive it is to develop your own product. And I mean a really good product. You can get off the shelf stuff easily, right?
Mm,
And you can dress it up however you want. But to develop your own product, to go through the formulations, to do the research, the testing. I've got two PhD dermatologists on my team, and we've developed all our own formulas. So it's that difference that sets us apart, number one. But I think it's the cost implications as well. It's not like it used to be. So maybe 8 years ago, you could start a D2C brand, start advertising on Meta and Amazon and Google SEO. All the costs now have tripled. So it's really, really hard to drive a good cost of traffic to your site. And this is what we call a customer acquisition cost or CAC.
yeah.
And when you bake that into your margins, you find, and a lot of D2C brands find this, that they just can't make any money. They can't make any money because the costs are going so up. They spend thousands, if not hundreds of thousands on testing, and then they're in a saturated market. So it is expensive. You have to go through quite a lot of pain to get through it. And then you need to have a strategic edge because a solution to all of this is okay, well, I'll go and I'll do a seed raise of 500,000 or £1 million to fund it. But if you're not like a category differentiator or come with any sort of innovation, it's going to be very hard for you to raise money because you're just going to be another brand.
Yeah, 100%, Alex. And you're saying there, like, you hired like team of PhDs and you were kind of more focused on actually long term instead of, just getting the quick sales, more
Yeah.
doing the actual research. Where did that realization come in your life that, okay, we need to build the foundations before actually going looking for sales, revenue, revenue, revenue?
For sure, for sure. So when I started out, it was a one product store, and I don't know if I've got any around. We had a single product, and it was a face mask, and it was very good and everything like that. But then I was like, I had a so what moment. Okay, so it's a nice face mask. It makes my skin feel good, but so what? Like, really, what is this doing?
Mm.
And I suffer from psoriasis, and I've got a skin condition, and it it goes up and down, but it used
Yeah.
to get me. It used to get me down quite a lot. So I did a lot of research into what is making my skin react this way, and I found out it was the environment. And we're all subject to so many chemicals, UV exposure every day, blue light from our phones, and just a whole range of things. And my skin condition was a reaction to the environment. And in fact, all skin conditions are a reaction to the environment around us or our immune system. So there was a lot more science involved than I gave it credit for. And when I started researching it more and more and more, I thought, I've got to make a difference here. I've got to make something that is different and stands out in this category. So then I started contacting and some dermatologists, And I hired two of them, and they sit on my scientific advisory board. And we've developed a full skincare system now, which is really about environmental protection. It's called the Hyperen system, and that stands for hydrate, protect, and enrich. And they're the three building blocks of skin health. And it's revolutionary. It's going to be really good, and we're putting it out in the market at the end of the year. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And for you, Alex, I know you're somebody who, obviously you're talking about like 5-year plays, a lot of them which were chosen years before.
Mhm.
If somebody is finding themselves kind of focusing on the short term, what would you advise? How do you even plan for 5 years ahead, and what does that look like?
There's some really good plays that you can do short term. Not everyone is suited to systems thinking and strategic. Some people are just natural born hustlers. They can go into a venture, they can, raise money, exit really fast within 18 months. There's nothing wrong with that. There's
Mm,
different personality types that suit different forms of doing business.
yeah.
Short-term money is great and it can really be a stepping stone. Now, I'm really grateful to every single job I had, working month to month and that salary because it gave me enough capital to kind of have my own dreams. So whatever you're doing to make money, whether it's short term or long term, there's a use for it. And I don't think that anyone around me and anyone in this space, and you're part of this ecosystem as well. You said that you were at the event in Ireland. I think there's a shift between, you know, you're in a group of people that will work hard, reinvest their capital. You've all got big dreams. And then there's the other people that are just happy working every month, getting that monthly salary, spending it down the pub or, going to Ibiza once a year. And that's good for them. Short-term money is great if you know what to do with it.
Mm. And why do you feel like so much people kind of fall victim? Because honestly, I haven't really thought, because there's so much successful people, who do exit a company after 18 months. But
Mhm.
why do you feel like so much people kind of get sucked into, maybe they hit 10, 20K a month and then they just right back down?
Yeah, the fast money goes fast as well. I've got a story for you, and this was before I really got deep into these businesses now, but it was at the beginning of when I started a skincare brand, and I made around £500,000 in crypto, and I lost more or less all of it. Okay, so it came
Wow.
really fast, and through one mistake or another, I more or less lost. I think I got down to about 60K. Okay, so from riding up to £500,000, which is maybe 700,000 euros, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Rode it all the way down, rode it all the way down. So easy come, easy go. And that's the thing, when you're earning money, and you start thinking, especially like in a business like high ticket sales, it's like, oh, what that thing's only 10,000. Okay, well that's just like 2 weeks worth of,
Almost.
converting. And if when you start thinking like that, it's like you lose the value of money. So people who earn money quickly, they tend to value it a little bit less. But trust me, if you've been working for 5 years non-stop in a job, okay, you've done okay, you've managed to save 10K. Can you imagine how much more you value that 10K than when if you just made it over, 2 weeks of closing
Mhm.
some really high ticket sales? There's a difference there. It's a difference. So that's why people make it and lose it.
What was that biggest lesson that you learned from that? Because that's a lot of money lost. What
Yeah,
was the biggest takeaway for you from that?
there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. I thought that there were shortcuts, and there's just not. There's nothing better than investing in yourself, working hard, and finding a good model, a good system that can make you money. Crypto's gambling. I still do it now and again, actually. I still like a bit of trading, but there are no shortcuts. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing, amazing, Alex. Now, look, I want to wrap this up with one last question. Say me and you were to die today, Alex. What would be one piece of advice that you could leave for the younger generation?
Okay, so the one bit of advice is life is a game, okay? Essentially a game. The more you can treat it as a game and take it as far as you can. For me, life is about pushing things as far as you can before they break. And you get one shot on the planet. Whatever you do, whatever your hustle, whatever your dreams are, use that dream to just experience as much as you can on the planet because it's a beautiful world. There's a lot to see here. And yes, we're all trying to chase goals, we're trying to smash it, we're trying to get accolades and build up companies. But why? What's the end goal? And it's to experience life. So yeah, treat it as a
Wow.
game, treat it as a game.
Amazing. Amazing. Look, Alex, I've learned a lot from this. I really have enjoyed the conversation with you. So thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. You're welcome.